5 feet away, my legs gave out and I hit the gravel hard. I looked up into the back seat of that car, and there was no back seat. Just darkness. And my brother sitting inside it, smiling at me with a mouth stretched too wide to be human. That was the last time I ever saw him alive. I was 7 the first time I remember playing it. Nobody ever gave it a name. There was no rule book, no winner, no prize at the end. Just one line that got passed down like a family secret. If you hear a car coming up the driveway, hide. We didn't question where it came from. It was just there, baked into our childhood the same way bedtime stories were. The second a tire hit gravel, all 4 of us would scatter without a word, laughing the whole way to our spots. For 2 straight years, that's all it ever was. A silly little game 4 bored kids made up to kill the afternoons. My family's house sat at the far end of a 5-mile gravel loop, buried deep in the Blue Ridge Mountains. 30 minutes to the nearest grocery store. A handful of neighbors scattered along that loop. And then us, alone at the very end of it. Deer and turkey wandered through the trees behind our property. A creek cut along the base of the mountain, cold enough to sting your ankles in July. It was, in every way that mattered, a perfect place to grow up. Mid-August, the kind of heat that sits on your chest, thick with humidity left over from the last thunderstorm. Miserable weather for most people, but exactly the kind of day 4 siblings with nothing better to do would spend outside anyway. Michael and Aaron, the twins, stood on one side of a sagging pop-up volleyball net. My oldest brother, JT, and I stood across from them. Nobody there had ever actually played volleyball. It showed. A 9-year-old, 2 11-year-olds, and a 14-year-old, hacking a ball back and forth and trading insults every time somebody missed. Aaron heard it first. Gravel, crunching low and steady under a tire. We caught each other's eyes and screamed, "Hide!" at exactly the same time, like we'd rehearsed it 100 times because we had. I ran for the bed of my dad's truck. JT and Michael shoved past each other for the spot behind the big sycamore. Aaron, feeling bold that day, skipped her usual place in the garage and dropped behind the raised garden beds instead. I tucked my knees to my chest and stared at the floor of the truck bed. Nobody had ever told us not to look at the car when it passed. We just knew. If I can't see it, it can't see me. That was the logic. Unspoken, absolute. The engine dragged closer, struggling the way old engines do on a steep grade. It was right in front of the house now. No sign it was slowing down. That's when Michael shouted, "Move," and my head snapped up before I could stop it. JT was flat on the ground. Michael must have won the fight for the sycamore and shoved him down to keep the spot. But this time JT wasn't laughing it off. He was staring toward the driveway, face drained white, his mouth hanging open like he was 1 second from screaming. And underneath all of it, I heard a car door open. JT scrambled up and bolted for the front door. I was sure something would come tearing out of that car after him. I didn't dare look toward it. I just sat frozen, watching him hit the porch steps 2 at a time, waiting for something to grab him from behind. Nothing did. He reached for the doorknob, went inside, and shut the door like it was any other afternoon. Michael and I looked at each other, both of us thinking the same thing, and slowly turned toward the driveway. The car was gone. No engine fading into the distance. No taillights disappearing down the gravel. It had just stopped existing. We climbed down and met Aaron at the front steps, and the 3 of us went inside together, quiet, bracing for something. Instead, we found JT on the couch, eating chips out of the bag like nothing in the world had happened. He caught us staring and scowled. "What are you all looking at? Quit being weird." We surrounded him in the living room. "What happened? What did you see? Was it a monster?" Aaron didn't ask anything. She just sat there watching him carefully, saying nothing at all. JT looked genuinely confused. "What car?" he kept saying. Michael pushed harder, asking what was inside it, and JT just stared back at us like we'd all lost our minds. He remembered playing volleyball. He remembered coming inside for a snack. That was it. Nothing in between. What bothered me wasn't that he'd forgotten. People forget things. It was the way he forgot it. Not like someone covering a lie, but like someone being asked about a memory that had never been written down in the first place. Eventually he got bored of our questions and wandered off to his room to nap. That's when we noticed Aaron hadn't said a single word since we'd walked through the door. She was somewhere else entirely, staring at nothing. I asked her name, careful, like waking someone from a dream. She blinked and looked at both of us. "You didn't see it, did you?" she said. "Neither of you looked at the car." We told her no, that by the time we turned it was already gone. She shifted in her seat, and I could see her trying to line up the words in her head before she let them out. I was behind the garden beds. I saw JT. I saw the door open. There was nothing there. I told her she meant nobody was there. She snapped back at me, "No, I mean nothing." When that door swung open, it was like staring into a hole. No driver's seat. No steering wheel. No windows on the inside, not even a windshield. Just black. Michael asked what she was trying to say. Aaron looked him dead in the eye. "I'm saying there was nothing inside that car." And whatever JT saw in all that nothing, it was enough to send him running for his life. The three of us sat there a long time, nobody willing to be the one to say what we were all thinking. It was JT who finally broke it, poking his head out of his room and asking if we wanted to go back outside like it was any other Tuesday. We agreed anyway, dragging our feet the whole way. We stood on the porch and stared at the spot where the car had been. Gravel. Nothing else. JT had already wandered off toward the backyard, whistling some tune under his breath, like the last hour had never happened. Life went back to normal after that, or close enough. We chalked it up to overactive imaginations and let it go. JT never brought it up again, and neither did we. 2 weeks later, the gravel crunched again. Michael yelled, "Hide!" before any of us had even fully registered the sound, and we scattered on instinct. I climbed into the truck bed and looked over the tailgate toward the porch, where Michael and Aaron were tucked underneath, both of them frozen, staring toward the driveway. I followed their line of sight and understood why in about half a second. The car was already parked, dead center in the drive. Black once, or something close to it, now eaten through with rust and sun damage until it looked closer to junkyard brown. No badge. No plate. No way to tell the make. The windows weren't just tinted. They were a darkness that pulled at your eyes if you looked too long, the kind you didn't want to keep staring into, but couldn't quite look away from either. The engine rattled like it might die at any second. And I couldn't make sense of how it had gotten all the way up our driveway that fast, or why none of us had heard it approaching until it was already sitting still. Then I saw JT. He was standing 3 feet from the passenger side, dead still, staring at the rear door. No expression on his face at all. He didn't flinch when I hit the ground running and screamed his name. I sprinted harder than I ever had in my life. At 20 feet, his hand started lifting toward the handle. At 15, his fingers closed around it. At 10, the door swung open. At 5, my legs buckled underneath me and I went down hard into the gravel, sliding to a stop right beside the back tire. I lifted my head. I was looking straight up into the back seat. Except there was no back seat. No upholstery. No window glass. No floor mats. Nothing but black. And JT sitting in the middle of it like the seat had grown around him. I reached up for him. His head turned slow and looked down at me. There was no fear in his face. No confusion. Just a smile. Too wide. Stretched past where a human mouth should stop. The door slammed and clipped the side of my skull on the way shut. Silence. The next thing I remember is Michael shaking me awake and Aaron somewhere behind him, screaming for our mother. The police showed up an hour later. We tried to tell them everything. The darkness. The smile. All of it. But they only wrote down the parts that sounded reasonable and left the rest as the imagination of scared kids. Posters went up on every telephone pole. Every gas station bulletin board in the county. Search parties combed the woods looking for an abandoned car and a runaway driver. None of it turned up anything. We buried an empty casket 2 months later. The three of us never talked about that day again. Not really. We agreed, without ever saying it out loud, to leave it buried with everything else. And the game died with it. From that day forward, when we heard gravel on the driveway, we didn't hide anymore. We ran straight for the house every single time, even into our teenage years, just in case that car ever decided to come back for one of us. I'm 38 now. Good job, a wife I love, 3 kids of my own, and a house 20 minutes from the one I grew up in. My parents are still around. My siblings and I still talk. On paper, everything about my life is fine. Except lately. I can't stop reliving all of it. I'm writing this down because I don't know what else to do with it anymore. Maybe it's guilt. Maybe it's fear. I honestly couldn't tell you which. What I can tell you is what I saw yesterday standing at my kitchen window checking on my kids playing in the yard. That same car. Parked in front of my house. My 3 children standing right beside it, the rear door hanging wide open. And in that black empty space where a back seat should have been, my oldest brother was sitting exactly where I last saw him, smiling up at me like no time had passed at all. If this kind of story gets under your skin the way it still gets under mine, stick around. I've got more where this came from, and honestly, I could use the company.